Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the NASA Alumni League First Thursday virtual program. Today is Thursday, March 3rd, 2022, and I'm Stokes McMillan. And today our speaker is one of the big wigs around the Bay Area, Bob Mitchell. So Bob Mitchell joined the Bay Area Houston Economic Partnership in 2001 to direct the organization's Space Alliance Technology Outreach Program. And in 2007, he was assigned responsibility for BAHEP's day-to-day operations, and he became president in 2008. As BAHEP president, Bob has taken a leadership role in numerous initiatives affecting the Bay Area, which have included recovery efforts following Hurricane Ike in 2008 and working diligently to reinstate adequate funding for NASA's human spaceflight program in 2010. Now, in June 22nd of last year, Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced his appointment of Bob to the board of directors of the newly created Gulf Coast Protection District. This district was created by the legislature to operate and leverage funding to build the unique flood control and surge protection needs for coastal communities. When completed, the Coastal Texas study will be the largest civil works projects in U.S. history. Now, Bob Mitchell believes in giving back to the community, and he has actively donated his time in numerous capacities. In recognition of his work and partnerships on behalf of NASA JSC, its many contractor companies, and the Houston Airport System, Governor Abbott appointed Bob to the Texas Aerospace and Aviation Advisory Committee, where he is currently serving his third term. And as most of you know, Bob just tried for a term for our Texas Senate, and unfortunately he was not selected, but I'm encouraging him to go the next round. He's not that old.
Yeah.
So Bob, let me turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Stokes. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate everybody giving me the opportunity to speak today. But you know, the one good thing that came out of this Senate seat was I got 10,000 plus new friends. So there was some good that came out of it. It was a tough deal, but you know, you kind of live and learn. It's interesting process. But again, I want to thank everybody for allowing me to speak today. I'm going to start it out by talking a little bit about who Bay Area Houston Economic Partnership is. We're a 501c6 nonprofit. We are now in our 46th year. We have a little over 280 members, 16 cities and 2 counties are members, Port of Houston, Houston Airport System, 7 different school districts, and about 800,000 people live and work in this region. What we do is we focus on bringing primary jobs to the region. We focus on major industry clusters such as aerospace and aviation, maritime, specialty chemical, healthcare, life sciences, recreation, and tourism. And how do we do that? Well, we are approached by different companies, different businesses, different relocators to talk about potential projects. For example, right now we're working 23 projects, active projects, everything from aerospace and aviation to manufacturing, specialty chemicals, hospitality, and definitely some office space. And I'll talk a little more detail about some of these projects in a few minutes. I do want to talk some about the Houston Spaceport. You go back, I guess back when Anise Parker was in her, I guess next to last year as mayor, I went to her and I said, Anise, we need to think about making Ellington Field a spaceport. And she actually looked at me like I was nuts. And I said, Anise, I'm not talking about launching rockets. I'm talking about hypersonic and supersonic travel. We need to be the international hub of that. There's only one city that has more consulates than we do, and that's New York City, and they beat us by 3. So we truly are an international city, and we need to be that city that you can fly from Houston to New York in 30 minutes, and from Houston to England in an hour and 15 or 20 minutes. Those aircraft are being designed and developed right now. So we need to be that. So we got with Mario Diaz over at the Houston Airport System, and he jumped all over it. He's a real out of the box kind of thinker. Fast forward 4 years later, go through all the FAA processes, all the meetings and the environmental studies and all that kind of good stuff. And I think it's about $450,000 is what it cost. We became the 10th spaceport in the United States of America and the only spaceport in an MSA. There's actually about 350 developable acres out there that we needed to do something with. And some of y'all may know that we bid on the BE4 engine to replace the RD-180s. When Bezos started that project, it was like 25 locations across the US that was trying to go after it. And we were one of those 25 locations. That 25 got down to about 15, they got down to 10, they got down to 5, then it got down to 3. Then it got down to 2. And we were in the final 2. And basically, we lost that for 2 reasons. As I tell people, one is because Richard Shelby from Alabama was on the chair of the Appropriations Committee, and he wanted that in Alabama, which was the main reason. The second one was because we couldn't provide them enough evidence or proof that we could provide a pipeline of technicians that they needed to support that type of work. And I tell people it definitely wasn't because of money. We put together a $150 million package to land them here, and we came in second place. So we said we got to do something about this. We did several things. BE4 engine, the Bezos team was one of the ones that we first took out to what, quote unquote, what the spaceport was. And you walk up to the fence and it looked like a big, huge hayfield. And we had great renderings, but you know, it's one of those kind of situations. You need to build it and they will come, is how I felt. So we kind of languished around there for about 1.5 years. And I finally went to Mayor Turner and Dave Martin, Mayor Pro Tem Dave Martin, and said, look, we need to come up with $21 or $22 million to put in the infrastructure of the first 140 acres. And they have passed that unanimously. It took them 1 year. We put in the streets, the curbs, the drainage system, the fiber optics, the water, the gas, electricity, everything. So then now when we're bringing people out there, they could actually see that there was going to be something that was going to be built. And let me just say this is just for the first 150 acres as well. Most of you are very familiar with that. That's right there next to the old Boeing building, and then where they did the International Space Station, the cleanup room. That's my term for it. I know y'all got a much more proper term than I do, but it was a prep room. Things really started moving forward once we got that done. One of the first things I told you about a technician issue was we got with Sandy Center College and Rice University. And people here in my office, I'd like to take the credit for it, but Jimmy Spence traveled around the United States, 4 or 5 different locations, the high quality, training centers, and it took the best things that they had to offer and came back, and Sandy Center College developed what they call the Ed Center. And this Ed Center was actually started during COVID. Our first round of students went through this class at the Ed Center. And y'all probably recognize that building, but that is the building that they used to have the modules for the International Space Station. But anyway, so we got with our aerospace companies, executives, and they helped develop the curriculum for electrical technicians, mechanical technicians, composites, robotics. And we had our first class during COVID. We had 7 students go through that class. 2 of those students were actually were interns at the same time that they were going to school there. All 7 graduated. All 7 are now working for aerospace companies in this community. We are now having our second class this year, and we've got like 54 students going through the second class out there. So we're really excited about that. We're going to grow that. We're going to continue to grow it. We hope to have a, University of Houston, TSU, Texas A&M, and Rice out there in a larger building one day. We've got this vision of 150,000 square foot building, but we'll also be offering 4-year classes as well from those institutions. And we've been working on that now for almost 2 years. It's still in the works, but it's moving along pretty quickly. And of course, I told you about, once we got everything built or got the roads in, people started looking at it and say, okay, this is the real deal. So our first project that we landed was Axiom, of course, and I know y'all are all very familiar with Axiom, knowing that the ISS is going to be retiring soon. They're building the first commercial space station out there, and they announced a 430,000 square foot building. This is all last year now. 400. This is actually 2.5 months after the streets got put in. All this came together. These are all projects that we've been working on for a year and a half or 2 years. But anyway, so they made that announcement. 800 new jobs, 430,000 square feet. And what I like to tell people at this point that and y'all are familiar with this much more than other people that I talk to, and that is that we've never really built anything here. We've all designed it and developed it here, and it gets built somewhere else. But this is a different time now. We're building hardware here. Axiom is one. The next one came in was Collins. We worked with Collins for a year and a half. And of course, they're doing the spacesuits, but they're doing a lot of other things as well. There's a reason why, they've got an 8-acre site, but they also reserved another 14-acre site right next to them. So this is just phase one of a project, and that's going to create 250 new jobs, 116,000 square feet. That building, if you haven't been out there, the shell is up now. If you haven't been out there, you need to go out there because there's 3 buildings going up as we speak. Okay. The next one, of course, is Intuitive Machines, which is going to build a 125,000 square foot facility out there on 12.5 acres. And of course, they're building the first lunar lander and the first commercial lunar lander. So again, it's all about building things. It's not just designing and developing. We're actually doing manufacturing. And that's why we need this pipeline of students to help us fill these jobs in the future. Okay. We did recruit our first hypersonic plane company out of California. Of course, it didn't hurt that both the husband and wife team are Aggies, so they wanted to come home, so that made it a little bit easier. But they're actually building their propulsion system right now, developing it out there at Ellington Field. Now they're on the other side of the airport, not on the spaceport side, but eventually they're going to be on the spaceport side, and they're planning a 250,000 square foot facility on 13 acres. So we're really excited about this, Venus. I wanted to show this. Most of y'all may not recognize this because the trees are covering it up now, but this is the old USA building. And a gentleman named Jerome Karam just came in and bought the entire building. It's going to completely remodel it. Okay. Going to break it into 4 different pods at 90,000 square foot each. And you'll have the opportunity to either own or lease your space in that building. And each one of these pods will have their own separate lobby for business owners and guests to come into. I've seen all the drawings of this and renderings. In fact, they've already started working on this facility right now. So something that we thought would never get filled up again is going to get filled up again. It is going to be beautiful when it's completed. I kind of want to talk about this with this project that we worked on for, all right, let me go back. No. Well, let me see. This happened to me the other day. Let me see if I can, no. Anyway, that Gray Wolf Lodge, I'm sorry, I can't get this thing to back up, but that Gray Wolf Lodge is a project that we worked on for 2.5 years. It's only going to be the second one in the state of Texas. It's going to be a destination location, and people are just, they can't wait to see this thing completed. And it's already started the construction. They're doing the groundwork on it right now. This slide here, I was just going to share with you a little bit. We talk about Texas and how, people want to move to Texas. And I was at a luncheon with Glenn Hagar the other day, and it was talking about how there's 1,000 people a day moving into Texas, and that why are they doing it? Because it's a business friendly state. It really is. The one that I want to show you or share with you, that last bullet point down there, when you talk about a 2-bedroom medium house in Houston is $295,000. That same house in San Francisco is about $1.26 million. And then, of course, the rent on a 2-bedroom apartment is about $1,200 here in Houston compared to $4,100 in California. So who wouldn't want to get out of California, right? You've probably heard a lot about the coastal spine. This is a project that I've been working on for almost 14 years now. Dr. Bill Merrill, the gentleman that came up with this concept, came to me and said, "Bob, I need some help. I can't get any traction on this." He says, "I see what you do with NASA and the Johnson Space Center, how you go to Washington, D.C. every year and get people to buy into the importance of what's going on at JSC. And I need that kind of support here." And I said, "Bill, tell me what you're talking about." So he said, "Well, basically, we can protect ourselves from storm surge. If you remember Ike, it was a $32 billion storm. 29 billion was surge and surge only. We can stop that surge from getting up in the bays and flooding our areas. and he's got this whole concept. And what you're looking at right here is it actually started as what we call the Galveston Bay Plan, but is now an entire coast of Texas. It's called the Texas Coastal Study that the Corps of Engineers and the General Land Office have been working on now for about 4.5 years to come up with a plan. And what we're focusing on right now is the Upper Texas coast, the mid to Upper Texas coast, the mid to Texas coast, and the Lower Texas coast is the 98% of that is all mitigation projects. Now, when you read the newspaper, they talk it's going to cost $36 billion to build this coastal spine. Well, $36 billion is the entire project from Louisiana, the border of Louisiana and Texas, all the way down to Brownsville. Our portion is the gate section is going to be somewhere between 12 and 13 billion, $14 billion. And the whole project here locally will be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $21 billion. And what's going to happen is we're going to build a large gate system across from Galveston to Bolivar. And once this project starts, and it sort of has, and I'll go into that detail in just a second, but it'll be the largest core process in the project in the entire history of the Corps of Engineers, the largest in the United States. But basically, these are gate systems. Ships will be coming in and out. We have a smaller gate right here for recreational boating. We have different types of gates, and I'll show you those pictures here just in a second. And basically, we're looking at different projects. The first part of this is going to be the area across Galveston Bay, again, between Galveston and Bolivar. That's the first section. That section is going to be, like I said, is going to be somewhere around 12 or $13 billion. The second section is going to be what we call the Ecosystem Restoration Project, which is the dune system, and I'll show you better pictures of that in a second. The third area will be the backup area inside the bay. And you say, well, okay, if we can stop the surge here, why do we need to help right here? Because if you look at the bay itself, it's no more than 12 feet deep all the way across, except for the channel that was dug for the ships, right? So it's only 12 foot deep. And what happens when you have a hurricane come in and the wind goes from south to north and then turns from north to south, when the water is that shallow, it creates what they call the bathtub effect. Let's call the Okeechobee effect, but it's the bathtub effect. So the water starts sloshing. When the water sloshes from one side to the other, those areas in Dickinson Bay and Clear Lake area is going to need some systems to protect them from that sloshing piece of it. And then the fourth and last piece of it is going to be the Galveston ring barrier, which my personal opinion is will never get built because there's too many people that don't want to do it. And the second part of it is extremely complicated. Extremely complicated. These are what the sector gates are going to look like when they're open, and they'll be open all the time until there's a hurricane coming. Then the sector gates also close. I might mention here, though, when I say they're always going to be closed, if you look at Harvey, our worst flooding in Harvey, okay, was at high tide. If you can actually shut these gates, the water goes to low tide, you can shut these gates, all that rain hits, right? It fills up the bay. You can fill that bay up to 6 or 7 feet all the way across. It'll fill up, and when the tide changes, you open the gates. And that can protect a tremendous amount of flooding up in our areas as well. These vertical gates right here on the left, my left, probably your right, is those are 70 feet tall and about a football field long. Now, there's only going to be about 5 sections on one side and 1 on the other, but that area, and say, why is it 70 feet? Because you have to drop those things down 50 feet down into the channel, right? And you still have 20 feet above to protect us from flooding. So this is what it looks like open, and this is what it looks like closed. The other thing is the dune restoration system on Bolivar. There's going to be double dunes. If you look at the before and look at the after, we're going to be creating about 250 feet of new beach on Bolivar Island. And what I tell people, we're going to have more recreation area on Bolivar now and on parts of West Beach as well that we've never had before. And these dunes right here, there's a discussion going on these dunes, whether or not they should be reinforced or not. The environmentalists don't want them reinforced. if you don't reinforce them and you get a 500-year storm, it's going to wipe the whole thing out and you got to start over again. But if you do the reinforcement inside that dune, it may wash the sand out of it, but it'll still stop the water from getting up across Bolivar Island. So that's discussion. I do want to say too, there's environmentally, this project has been, the environment has been the most important thing that we've talked through this entire process. If you look at all the engineers that have worked on this so far to date, 98% of them are all environmental engineers, all the way from the Corps of Engineers to the General Land Office that's helped work on this. But this dune system is going to be, it's going to be incredible. Again, it's just going to create a tremendous amount of recreational area. Now, what we needed to do is to create a non-federal sponsor. I worked with the state legislature for the last 2 sessions with Larry Taylor and Dennis Paul to create this non-federal sponsor. You have to have that, because if you don't have a non-federal sponsor, what does that mean? We're going to have to do some matching of dollars. Federal government gives you 70% of the money. You got to raise the other 30%. But if they don't have, if the federal government doesn't have a non-federal sponsor to put that money in, then what are we going to? There's nothing we can do. We can't accept the money, and they won't give it to us. We had to create this Gulf Coast Protection District in order to make that the non-federal sponsor. And as you can see, the district is made up of 5 counties, and we have left it open for 1 more county, which is Brazoria. And the governor appointed 6 people, and I was fortunate enough to be appointed to that. I'm now the vice president of this Gulf Coast Protection District, and Michelle Bechtel is the president. Of course, Roger Gunther is at the General Land Office. Sally Backel works down at in Galveston. Lori Trawick was with Gulf Coast Water Authority for years, and she's an environmentalist. And then Michael Vanderschnick is with the East Harris County Manufacturing Association. Each one of those on the left, the governor appointments are 4-year terms. The county appointees are 2-year terms. But we have been working now for the last 9 months on building this thing from scratch. And it's everything from the marketing piece of it to lawyers, to bookkeepers, to construction type people. And here's what I tell people: right now we've got 2 employees, but in 2 years, there very well could be as many as 100 employees, and this could be $1 billion a year project. So we're building this thing from the ground floor up to make sure that we support as a non-federal sponsor. And we've actually already received 2 sessions ago, $200 million from the state to start the projects over in Orange and Jefferson counties. And this past year, we received another $200 million, and all that money is using matching dollars because the federal government gave us $7 billion to begin those other 2 projects. So we needed our matching, so the state did that for us. So if you really want to technical about it, we are actually starting the easternmost piece of this already. We're working with Senator Cornyn right now with the WRDA Act, Water Resource Development Act, to get $25 million in that. It's not a lot of money, I agree with you, but what it does, it sets up the ability for us to start construction. So you don't have to go back every year for construction piece of it. The main driver of this WRDA Act is to allow us to do the construction piece of it. So we made a tremendous amount of progress on this thing. Like I said, some of y'all probably know very well, I've been doing this for 13 and a half years, and it wasn't an easy project. As I tell people, I had to start down in Galveston, pick off every city one at a time, every organization one at a time. And we got all the way to Harris County, and we're able to pick off the Harris County Mayors Association, which has 32 mayors in Harris County. And they voted 31-0 to a resolution in support of the Gulf Coast protection area. So we made a lot of progress on that. Talk a little bit about the Space Alliance Technology Outreach Program. This program actually is a program that I started with here, and was only going to be here 6 or 7 months. I was going to go back into my manufacturing world that I'd done my entire life. I'd worked 18 years for Grumman and another 16 years for offshore umbilicals, quick hydraulics and things like that, manufacturing. And I was missing my youngest son's events, and I said I wouldn't do that. So I said, I'm going to find me a job for about 6 or 8 months. And that 6 or 8 months now has turned into 21 years. So, and Brian Friedman also is the one that helped me with this, taking this program statewide. It's been very, very successful. Over the last 20 years, we've helped over 1,000 companies in the state of Texas solve technical challenges they cannot solve themselves. We have a number of partners that work with us and help us on this, and there's a list there. I'm not going to read them all out to you, but we couldn't pull this off without all these companies that helped us. And basically, we help every kind of an issue other than software design. And basically, if you have a product that you have developed, a small company that you've developed, and you can't complete the project because you can't afford a high-priced engineer to help you, whether it's robotics or fluids or electrical, electronics, chemical, whatever it is, you can't afford that. You can bring it to us, and what we'll do is we'll find an engineer that will solve this for you for free. And again, we've helped over 1,000 companies solve those technical challenges. We've had companies that go from 2 to 20 to 2,000 employees. We've talked about huge manufacturing jobs, and it's been a tremendously successful program. And could not do it again without the support of our aerospace community. Those companies, like I said, donate as much as 17,000 hours a year to this program for free. And in fact, the NASA, you guys were members at one time, and decided that y'all worked a couple of projects for us, but you got out of it because you're really concerned with IP and legal issues. But let me just say this: we've worked a total of 4,000 projects. Okay, when I say 1,000, we call those success stories. We're talking about when they hire, 20 or 30 people or create a manufacturing process or whatever. We call those success stories. But we've worked over 4,000 projects, and we've never had an IP or legal issue in 21 years working this program. Because these companies just want to have the ability to advance their product so they can make a great living. I'm not going to go through this slide that much. So this past session, worked with Dr. Greg Bonin, and he was able to get us funding to help us with a capstone project through Texas A&M University. We had a test product, which was this Starling Medical right here, and we worked this thing over summer just to see how it would flow through. But basically, what this is an innovative urinary catheter operated by an app. You can take this catheter and you can leave it in for a month. This thing is 5 millimeters in size. You can leave it in for 1 month. It's battery charged, and it takes a person that's can go to the restroom on their own without having to do the bag, and every day you have to take the catheter out, put a new one in. It stops all that. It's a hugely successful program. This is like the 6th remodel design of it. They were having problems with the propeller systems inside that. They're very, very small. But anyway, it was a great project. It was our first one, and it was so successful that we're now working 4 additional projects in the Capstone Design program at Texas A&M. And this picture here on your left was just here this week, meeting in our conference room, these students to talk through some of the issues with the owner of this one particular product. So they're great opportunities. Again, there's a medical device here for autistic people. There's one for treating back pain. There's a flatbread toaster oven. Again, it's just a little bit of everything. But hugely successful. Could not do it without our elected officials that help us fund this. I think I'm getting pretty close to the end. I'm at the end of this thing. So if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer if you've got any questions. Stokes, you got to unmute. Stokes, you got to unmute. You're muted. Can't unmute. Okay. Bill, can you unmute? We got a problem. Hang on, let me see. The host won't allow. heard a noise. Okay. We're having a problem where the host can't unmute. Have you run across that before? The host can't unmute.
Hey, I think we might be back.
Oh,
Can you hear me, Bob?
I can.
All right. Well,
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the problem was. I'm not the host, so there we go.
Are you done with the presentation?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Bob?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Hey, thank you so much for a fascinating presentation. Yeah, it looks like BAHEP and yourself do a lot of great things in the community. So, yeah, I'd like to open it up, for questions. One question I have is, your list of engineers for the that you referenced. How does one volunteer for that?
Well, what we do is if we have to sign an MOA, okay, of course, and then what happens is we get requests in, and then we'll send you the request for technical assistance, and you kind of spread it around to your engineers. And if somebody says, "Hey, I can do that," then that person gets it. Then we partner that person with the company, the requester, and basically they take care of it over the phone. It's like 43 hours of work. And you say, okay, well, 43 hours is not very much time, but if you're a materials expert and this company is having an issue with, doesn't know what kind of material to use, well, as material experts, you say, well, have you tried this? And they may say yes, or they may say no. If they say no, then they will go off and try it. They may come back 2 weeks from now after they tried that and say, oh, great, it worked, or it didn't work. And then all of a sudden they said, well, the engineer said, well, tell me what's going on with it. And then they come up with another idea for material. So, you can go to 2 or 3 different processes and not spend more than an hour, hour and a half. Now, other projects are more difficult than that. I will say that, but for the most part, that's how we work it.
Hey, Stokes, as Bob mentioned, we don't participate in the SATOP anymore, and we can discuss that and not use any of Bob's time. But that doesn't mean our members could not provide their expertise on an individual basis to a project. If we get a request like that, we either broadcast it, or if we know people who have the expertise, we would forward that opportunity directly, and then allow the individual to in fact offer their services. The downside to us doing it that way outside SATOP is that we as an organization would not realize any income from that.
Understand.
hey, Bob, I'll toss one out, and I put it in the comments too. But from well, first, a big thanks and great to see you and great presentation. Aside from the coastal barrier protection work that you mentioned, what big legislative policy level things are you tracking that you'd recommend maybe this group keep an eye on as well?
Well, of course, it's always the NASA budget. That's one. But some of the other things that we're still following and staying on top of is the FEMA flood. Everybody's affected by flood insurance. If you go back to the Bigger Waters Act about 7 years ago, when they tried to go in and take out the grandfathering clauses. So if you sold a house, you couldn't, the person buying the house could not use your flood insurance. It was over and it was done with. It was going to devastate this community. We worked on that to make sure that that was stopped. It's funny. What's funny about that thing is it's Bigger Waters Act, right? Well, Maxine Waters in California was the co-author of that. Well, guess what area that she left out of that particular piece? her own district. And I was able to use that against her. Okay. And she finally came around, and she's the one that actually authored the new bill that put the grandfathering clause back in, and then also reduced or limited the amount of your cost could go up a year by certain percentages. It was like 25% one year, 28 the next year, 30. Well, she limited that to like 12 and 14%. So those are, and that's still out there. Okay. That's coming back up again this session. We all need to stay on top of that. That to me, that's the biggie. Now, Brian, is there something that you think we need to be looking at?
I appreciate you looking at the NASA budget, because that's the one we're always tracking. You know, the other big one I'd mention is the future of economic development incentives in the state, and how important they are for business recruitment, retention. Just having worked a number of projects for our company, and seeing the impact that they can have, it's important stuff.
So let me talk about three things right here. And look, I'm not making a political statement. I'm stating facts right here. Mays Middleton, the person that just got elected, your next senator, that doesn't live in this district, was against 313, chapter 313s, and was against chapter 380s. He doesn't support them at all. That's why they got caught up in sunset. The third one is, I talked to you about that Gulf Coast Protection District. Without that Gulf Coast Protection District, we would not be able to receive federal funds. Well, Mays Middleton tried to kill that bill on the last day. And he got, I don't want to use the word attack, but he got covered up with about 52 of his colleagues and pushed him into a back room. He said, you're going to pull those amendments because we're going to pass this thing, because we got it. The state of Texas has to have this. Now, his reasoning behind that was because he did not want another taxing entity. Well, I don't like taxes either, but in some cases you do need to do tax. Okay. But we wrote that bill to where very clearly it could never be more than 5 cents per 100. All the analysis we did, it would cost no more than 2.5%. 2.5 cents per 100 if we decided to use that. And we also put in there that each county had to have 51% approval to tax. If one county did not have that 51%, then it didn't go through. So the people are going to make the decision on whether or not it's important to protect their assets, not an elected official. It's going to be up to the people. I don't know if I answered your question, but yes, the 313s, the 380s, and the Gulf Coast Protection District are extremely important to this region. It affects everything we do.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions? Oh, looks like we may got locked up.
Bob, this is Ken Wong. Is there any discussion of lengthening the runways at Ellington to support those hypersonic vehicles?
The runway that's currently there is the longest runway in the city of Houston, and it doesn't need to be lengthened.
All right, thank you.
Hi, this is Tal Getzelman. Got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Al.
Yeah, when Fry's Electronics closed, I suggested that it be repurposed as a convention center. And I just wonder if that's something that your organization would coordinate on, or is that beyond your charter?
No, sir. We have been actively involved in that. And it's one of those situations where you've just got to find the right developer. And we are looking to do something with that and trying to help with that. But right now we're kind of hitting a dead end because of all the other convention centers that are going to be coming up. You know, the Gray Wolf's going to have one. There's another huge project in Webster. And then there's also the one they just announced here recently in Seabrook. That's going to be like a 16,000 square foot convention center as well. So it's going to be hard to find the right developer to redevelop that whole entire building to make it like some of these other ones are going to look like.
Well, the one thing I saw is, for anybody who's ever been inside there, it's already got the space seam. It's already got the, food service kind of stuff, move the cash registers out of the way and the display cases, and you got a giant parking lot ready to go. So that's the thing I would say is it would seem a shame to, have something that's themed with the space theme all ready to go and somebody not able to take advantage of it. But I understand probably other people have their own individual dreams and they want to start from scratch.
Yeah. Well, we're trying. Yeah, we don't want it to sit there empty either. I can assure you.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments for Bob?
Hey, Bob, I'll toss out another one since it's kind of quiet. And I don't know how much you can share about this, but I have heard the story and it might be of interest to other folks that live in the Clear Lake area. At one point, there had been some discussion about a tank farm off of 2351. And I know you guys got engaged in that discussion and some other stuff. Can you share that story?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right there on Clear Lake City Boulevard and Highway 3, on the left, the area between Highway 3 and 45, Magellan Partners was going to come in. We found out about this late. They'd already bought the property. They come in and they were going to put 36 oil tanks in there. And I said, there is no way in hell we're going to let that happen. No way. Absolutely no way. Got with Mayor Turner, got with Dave Martin. We have a road that's going to go from where the spaceport is right now. That's going to run parallel to Clear Lake City Boulevard inside the spaceport. If you can visualize that in your head, it'll come all the way up to Highway 3. It was going to dead into Highway 3, and then you get on Highway 3 and go back and forth. What we were able to do is to get the city of Houston to put in their long-term plans within 6 weeks. Is what we did is we took that road coming out of the spaceport and we took it right through the middle of that field. So the city was taking that over for a future road that will go all the way to 45. That stopped the whole plan. It killed the whole plan. And this is the plan that had been in works for a number of years because they had already bought property and it was already putting their pipelines in to feed that center had been doing it for about 4 years. But when we put that plan on the big plan with the infrastructure plan to the city, that killed the whole thing. So,
and my recollection, Bob, was it was there would be 36 oil tanks on the flight path in that those F-16s that are fully loaded are flying in on.
Yeah, on the area going further south. Yes.
Well, as a resident who lives not too far from there, thank you.
Yes. That was a pretty rewarding experience. And especially when I called the mayor and the mayor said, Bob, I don't know anything about that. Well, he didn't know anything about it and he was not real happy. And that's why he expedited that thing through. And there were some people that probably lost their job over that deal because it was going to happen. So. Any more questions?
Okay, well, Bob, let's, someone have a question? Oh, I thought I heard something. Okay, well, Bob, thank you so much.
You bet.
Fascinating presentation, and I think everyone here learned a lot about your organization, and you're doing a lot of good work for the area. And
We got a great team here. I can tell you that right now. I talk about it, but everybody in the office does all the work. I just get to talk about it. So.
Bob, you did a great job today. I think we all, as Stokes said, we all learned a lot. And, even though I show up at the AAC meeting once a month and eat your food, there's a lot of stuff there. I didn't realize the breadth of some of the work that you guys are doing. Thanks for joining us today.
You bet, Bill. We really appreciate it.
Well, then, so let me tell you a little bit about next month's meeting. The next meeting of the National Alumni League, the first Thursday program will be April 7th. And then we're going to have something a little bit different. A graduate student from London's King College has been working on his thesis is Safety and Secrecy at NASA during the Apollo program. So this is a young guy who's been, interested in NASA and the space program. And so he's going to kind of give us his impression of what it was about. And I think it'll be interesting to get someone from across the pond to give us what they think. What is-
I hope this doesn't wind up being a Daniel and the Lion's Den experience for him.
Right, this will be good practice for him doing his dissertation speech for his PhD or so, hopefully. So, I hope we'll get some good questions. But thank you everyone for joining in. So David, we can start recording now. But thanks everyone for tuning in.